Hello, everyone. It's Paula Edgar here for MBBA Learns webinar Strategies for Success During Turbulent Times, which we are doing in collaboration with the Association of Black Women Attorneys. Just to make sure that everyone is able to hear me properly using the webinar platform, raise your hand using the hand raising tool so I can see. There you go. Wonderful. Thank you for letting me know that. That's actually the last time I need you to use that platform because I'd like you all to utilize menti.com and the code that's on the screen in order to ask any questions. I currently have two screens up. I currently have two screens up in order to make sure that I can see questions that come in and relay those questions to our speakers as we go through without having to go through multiple different screens. So here we are. Again, this is me. I'm Paula Edgar. I'm the president of the Metropolitan Black Bar Association. Oh, just kidding. I realize you can't see the screen yet. Hold on. Let me make sure that happens now. All right, so you can see the screen now. If you can see the screen, let me see your hands raised again. Okay, good. So you should see me on the screen. And again, I'm the president of the Metropolitan Black Bar Association, and my contact information is there. In addition to being the president of the MBBA, I have my own consulting firm where I do training, executive coaching, and also, I think that's it. No, training, consulting, and executive coaching. Tanya Blocker is the president of the Association of Black Women Attorneys, and she's also the co-chair of the MBBA's Labor and Employment section, and we are happy to be co-sponsoring this webinar today with ABWA. As I mentioned, if you have any questions, and you can think about questions you might have about navigating through turbulent times for success in turbulent times right now, I don't know what just happened, in order to make sure I can foster this. We're not going to take questions throughout, but we will reserve time at the end for those questions. And the website is menti.com, and the code is 709494, and I'll put that in the chat section of the webinar platform. So MBBA's theme for 2017-2018 is impact. We want to have innovation. We want to encourage our members to mentor and support the pipeline. We want to partner with organizations such as ABWA and other organizations that speak to MBBA's goals and visions. We want to, as Black lawyers, advocate, promote advocacy, and then support it, particularly around voting. And speaking of voting, we want to engage with our community much more. Obviously, we are Black lawyers, we're also members of the Black community. And then training. So things like this, where we're doing trainings online, as well as trainings in person, is what we'll be doing. We have many committees and sections. This is not even the full list. I would hope that you would look on our website and join. Speaking of join, do that at mbbanyc.org. We do encourage you to be engaged members of the organization. We can't do it without you. So this is the webinar we're doing today. We have another webinar in our professional development series on Thursday, where I will be talking about networking strategies for 2008. And then we have a final one that we'll be doing in 2017, which is goal setting for 2018. And so I encourage you all to join and experience the magic of what it means to set intentions and actually have them come true. And then we have job searching using LinkedIn, which is a new webinar that we just added because of requests from a lot of folks specifically around this. And so I'll be doing that on January 4th. You'll get information about that shortly. When I mentioned advocacy, MBBA is proud to engage with our community and to foster learning in different areas. And so our I'm a Solution programming is one of the things that we do with our initiative to connect with our community and figure out how we as lawyers, as well as community members and the members of the political sphere, can come together in order to create solutions around different areas. And this next one we're having on January 13th is about solutions on education, education advocacy. We're doing that in collaboration in the Bronx with a community law day, so we'll be able to engage with members of our community, volunteer to provide initial legal advice and resources. On January 17th, we have a panel called I Wish I'd Known, Reflections from Diverse Lawyers on How to Achieve Success, partnership with Moses and Singer. And we have the folks who are on the flyer that you see in front of you on there. That's Bisa Bryant, Brandon Nelson from JetBlue, Troy Frederick from the Law Department, Mildred Quinones Holmes from Moses and Singer, and the Honorable Judge LaShawn Darcy Hall from the Eastern District. Speaking of judges, we are honoring the New York's Black judges as a collective for Black History Month. We want to honor their impact and the importance of their being engaged and a part of our justice system. And so we hope that you'll be attending that. The registration link will be sent out shortly. And finally, our premier event, which is our gala, is going to be on May 18th, 2018. And we look forward to seeing you there. It will be epic, as they always are. And now, we are going to be talking today with the authors of The Little Black Book of Success, the original, as well as the new workbook, about strategies for success during turbulent times. To say that this past year has been turbulent is an understatement. I feel like I've been in the middle of a storm, literally. We have had political unrest. We have had, all kinds of issues happening with hurricanes and tornadoes and fires and all. There's a lot of unrest, and really trying to navigate a career during that and thinking about how we can be impactful in that space is challenging. And so we're going to have conversations using the guidelines and the leadership lessons in the Little Black Book of Success, original and new workbook, to guide this conversation. So before I get into more about the book itself, I wanted to have each of the authors introduce themselves. You'll see them now on the screen, and we'll start with Elaine. Hi, Elaine.
Hi, thanks, Paula. And, I'm going to apologize in advance if I have any technical difficulties because I'm on my cell phone. But thank you so much for that great introduction. After being in transition myself for a while, I'm happy to announce that I'm the new director of Cinema Project, which is an acronym for Careers in New Emerging Media Art at the College of Education at Georgia State University. And that's a program that serves young people between the ages of 18 and 24. So I'll jump right into always consider yourself a VIP and always stay positive. And
actually, Elaine, I'm going to stop you 1 second because I want to have everybody introduce themselves first, and then I will. And I should have made that clear. I apologize. And then I'll hit you with the question. So I'm going to thank you for that intro and congratulations on your new role. Marsha, would you go ahead and introduce yourself? Hi, Marsha.
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, good. Well, thank you so much, Paula, for inviting us to join you. We're happy to be talking about the Little Black Book of Success, Laws of Leadership for Black Women. I am the president and founder of Stepwise Associates. I am a leadership coach and motivational speaker and travel around the country talking about leadership and strategies for moving yourself forward. And again, I'm glad to be here and look forward to talking to you about some of the tips that Elaine, Rhonda, and I have put into the workbook and to the original book as well. Thank you.
You're welcome. Wonderful. Thank you for that. And last but certainly not least is Rhonda Joy Mclean, who is a member of the Metropolitan Black Bar Association and also a former honoree corporate counsel of the year a few years back. Rhonda, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yes. Thank you so much, Paula. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for inviting us to be a part of the webinar today. We're very excited to share what we've learned, both through our own work experience, which, when you put it all together, is now over 100 years, although we're all still quite young and sexy. And I am happy to share that after 18 years, many of them as Deputy General Counsel at Time Incorporated in New York City, I am about to rewire, actually in about 2 weeks, and launch my leadership consulting business. I'll be working with Elaine and Marsha, and we'll be talking about our book and working on other projects together. And I'm very excited to be here with you today.
That is fabulous, and congratulations to all of you. I'm looking at my screen, it's showing you all of my emails. So let's talk a little bit about, I will talk a little bit about the book. So I would say that I'm a fan is probably an understatement. I've gone to, I think, 5 or 6 of the book launches, and to hear you all speak about this, I really have utilized this book as a guiding principle for a lot of the things that I have done, and I think of it as one of my success strategies. So the Little Black Book of Success, Laws of Leadership for Black Women is the original book that you can still get on Amazon.com. You can see on the screen. Very excited about the workbook, which was released recently, which really guides you through these principles and allows you to self-reflect and utilize the lessons in a strategic way so that you're actually doing the work to get it to be a personal call to action, which is what it should say on the screen, as opposed to call to action is what it wanted to be, but that's okay. That's why I shouldn't rush to do anything. So anywho, I encourage you all to actually pick this up. I give it to all of my mentees to encourage them to really own their progression in their careers. So I think we'll get started now with talking about some of the principles that are in the book that we're going to discuss in terms of strategies for success. And so the first leadership principle that we have is, in seasons of stress, don't forget who you are, which leads to the leadership principles 1 and 2. Always consider yourself a VIP and stay positive. And Elaine, that's you.
Well, thank you, Paula, and forgive me for not mentioning, thank you so much for putting together this webinar. And like you read our book, I also read our book because it still continues to have value, and it's evergreen in terms of, regardless of where you are and what stage of your life or where you are in terms of your career, whether it's or professional as well as personal life. And chapter 1, always consider yourself a VIP, in our book is very deliberate. And when I think about always considering yourself a VIP, I always think that the first person you meet is yourself. And that's very important and resonates with me, because there's no one who's going to do you, so to speak, better than yourself in terms of advancing yourself and putting a plan together. What better time to do that at the end of 2017 leading into 2018. So it's a great time to continue your plan for yourself, whether it's professional or personal. And when you think about considering yourself a VIP, just think about ways in which you demonstrate how to do that, whether it's in your personal life or your professional life. And it's good to write things down as examples of how you do that, just as a reminder for yourself, so that you're also self-aware. And write down actions that you will take to move yourself forward to where you want to be in 2018. And you can do this by starting with broad strokes and filling in the blanks later on how you're going to implement some of those broad strokes in your plan to move yourself forward. During these stressful times, as you mentioned, Paula, it's important, I feel it's important to even sometimes disconnect from the news, because the news kind of takes you, it's important to sort of step away from the world and really use this time as an opportunity to reflect and look back on 2017 and look at things that you may want to revisit or change in 2018, which leads me to always staying positive and providing yourself with positive self-talk. It's important to sort of look at any baggage or preconceived thoughts that you might be carrying as a way that might be preventing you from moving you forward or from holding you back. Always staying positive, just look at, what triggers may even elicit some kind of, any kind of negative response. So you are self-aware, and then you can change your pattern of thinking. Positive thoughts lead to positive outcomes. So peace of mind, I know, helps me to stay positive. So I would, sort of ask the question, what makes you peaceful? So you can be less anxious during turbulent times. And, maybe you just need to find a quiet corner or relax and meditate, or, take a mid-afternoon sit down at a church during lunch. I mean, these are things that I sometimes do. Just take a walk through the stress at the gym. My mantra is, get out of your head and get into your body. There's nothing like releasing endorphins, or, it doesn't necessarily mean hard exercise. I mean, sometimes I even, Christmas shopping, instead of trying to, jostle for the parking space that's closest to the entrance of a store, I park on the far side of the parking lot just to get some extra steps in. Personal affirmations are always good to write down. Scripture sometimes helps me as well. And my favorite mamaism from the book is, if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. And that's in chapter 36. It's in the coaches chapter. So do things differently in 2018. To always consider yourself a VIP and staying positive. It's being around those people who support that way of thinking as well. So I can go on and on and talk about the topic, but it's a great beginning.
Yeah, I wanted to open it up to see if there were anything else that either Rhonda or Marsha wanted to add to that, but I thought that was really succinct. Self-care, mantras, getting folks out of your space who are, not helpful to your self-care and your mindfulness, and exercising, although I begrudge it. I agree, it's a very good strategy.
You know what? I mean, just the extra steps, with the car, and it's more to de-stress. I mean, quilting with friends, if that's what helps to keep you peaceful. I think the main thing is to do whatever keeps you peaceful, so that you can stay positive. Positive is a frame of mind, and that's something we need in order to move forward, and that's an important part of taking care of ourselves.
Absolutely. So I'm going to remind everyone who's on the call, and so I know some of you are using it already, but in the chat function, I have the mentee.com and the code you should use if you want to ask questions. And I see there's a few already there, which we'll get to at the end of the speaking portion. We'll get to these questions, but use mentee.com. 709494 is the code, and it's in the chat function, so utilize that. All right. So I'm going to move on to the next principle, and obviously all of you will be engaging around all these other things. I want to make sure we hit the things we want to get to first. So the next one is in turbulent times, you have to know your value and prepare for change. And Marsha, you'll be talking to us about that. Tell us all the things.
Okay, well, it's so funny that Elaine touched on some of the things that are important in even knowing your value. I think in knowing your value that you have to be reflective. You have to you have to be intentional about taking time to reflect on what you bring to the table. And that's both in a personal situation as well as a professional situation. When you can do that, you gain confidence, because so often we take for granted those things that are great about us, those accomplishments that we've had, those skills that we bring to the table, those thought processes and experiences that we can share with others, but we have to be truthful about them. And even if we're not truthful to other people, we have to be true to ourselves. So I think of knowing your value as just that. And we start off in the book, the original book, that chapter says, don't confuse your net worth with your self-worth. And I think that's so vitally important. And it doesn't make a difference what level you're at, whether you're the CEO or the assistant or the cleaning person, that you need to know that you bring value to everything you do. And you need to know what those are. And to pay attention to those accomplishments that you've had, because we often forget them and take them for granted. So we mentioned throughout these 40 chapters in the Little Black Book, we talk about documenting those accomplishments because we often forget. And we talk about the personal leadership notebook. Put them in a place that's easy to find so that you can go back and reflect on those when you have some of those turbulent times, when you have some of those down times, when you're not feeling so great, when something happens that doesn't go your way, you can go back and look at those accomplishments, look at those things that you do well, and reflect on those as well. Let those things carry you forward. So knowing your value is important. The other thing that we talk about is preparing for change. And anyone who knows me knows that this has to be one of my favorite chapters. I love to plan, and I think that change is inevitable and that you have to prepare for it, but that you should also look at change as an opportunity. It's not necessarily negative. Review times, thinking about what's important, things that matter to you, and sometimes change is the kick in the butt we need to rise up and move forward. We see it now in turbulent times that, people who weren't going to vote, who thought it wasn't important, the people who were voting in Alabama, they got their behinds up. You rise to the occasion. And it change makes you do that, because oftentimes we become complacent. We're busy being busy, and oftentimes we're busy doing things that are maybe important, but may not be the most important. And sometimes change forces you to sit down and reflect on those things. So busy doesn't necessarily mean important, but change makes you rethink that process. And I think that that's what's so vitally important. I think change is actually an opportunity. And when you look at it that way, it oftentimes it leads to better results than you thought, and sometimes better outcomes than you were currently in.
I tend to have, whenever Marsha speaks, one of those, I'm raising my hand in the air for church, but I'm not actually in church. And I will just say to you that even as an executive coach myself, that I have used Marsha as a coach because she's fabulous. And so you should know that.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to go on to the next leader. So one of you on the line, one of my speakers, has me, and I can hear the echo. So if you can mute that or mute yourself. If not, don't worry about it, but I just want to let you know I can hear echo. Okay. So while there may be chaos around you and or madness directed at you, do not get distracted. Stay on course. Don't let distractions or difficult boss throw you off course, and don't be defeated by moving into madness. Keep your sanity. Rhonda, you'll be talking to us about this.
Yes, thank you so much, and I agree with everything my co-authors have said. And one of the things I want to just start with is the importance of a sisterhood. And we may have brothers on the phone or just other people on the phone, but whoever you are, and we'll talk about it more later. I use Marsha and Elaine as friends, as co-authors, as business partners, but also as mentors. We are peer mentors for each other. As long as we've worked, as much experience as we have, I can tell you that they've been very helpful to me, both by watching them handle transitions in their own lives and watching them also help others. While I also do that, there are times when you can learn no matter how old you are. And I turned 65 this year. But I can tell you I'm still on a career trajectory and still use both the workbook and our original book as a guide for myself. So let's talk a little bit about how not to get distracted in these turbulent times. And I want to build on both what Elaine said, which was very important, about how you hold yourself and how you perceive yourself and lead yourself, and Miss Marsha about while you're holding yourself well and treating yourself well, sometimes you have to get kicked in the butt, or you have to kick your own self in the butt and make a move. So I'm in the process of doing that, and I can tell you that if you look in both our book and our workbook at chapter 25, you'll see a long list of kinds of bosses. And I can guarantee that some of you may be experiencing some of these difficult bosses right now. I certainly have experienced quite a few of them, but rather than go through those, which you can read for yourself, one of the questions that came to me when I was preparing for the webinar, I am a boss. Many of you are bosses or are planning to be a boss, or maybe you are an entrepreneur, so you're your own boss. Are you a difficult boss of yourself? Sometimes we don't boss ourselves very well. We have very high expectations. We get very frustrated when we don't move right away, if we don't get the raise we thought we should, or the promotion we thought we should, or whatever it is we're aiming for within the time frame that we had originally set. What I'm finding now is that yes, you do need to plan. Yes, you do need to know your value. Yes, you do need to prepare for change. But also, yes, you need to give yourself a break. These are difficult times, and I think sometimes you just need to breathe, stay centered, or what my family calls praying and moving your feet. I agree that you need to strategize, and here are some of the things that we suggest you do with difficult bosses. Sometimes you have people who micromanage you. You can't make a move without their being all over you. And one of the things, I've had bosses like that, and one of the ways I found that has helped to some degree is to always be organized myself, because I find that when you either are called into a meeting with these folks, or better yet, you ask for a meeting to ask, how can we work together for the benefit of our department, our team, or division, or project, or company, or wherever it is that you're working, I find that it helps to take in a written agenda. It doesn't have to be much. It can be 3 items. I usually try to take in, remember what Marsha said, from your personal leadership notebook, you should be able to point out something you've done that's of value. I always start with that, a progress report on what I and my team have done and how it will help the place where I work. Then I also ask for input and I ask for feedback, and then talk about next steps. I've been doing that for 30 years, and it has always served me well, even with people who don't listen, don't let you finish a sentence, talk too much, talk too fast, are difficult. I find that having the written word down tends to help them focus. Sometimes they won't take it, but I tend to put it in front of them anyway, whether they hold the paper or not. And then I work from the paper. And then always going forward, I never go in, particularly with bosses who are unpredictable. I never go in without something in writing. And then that way I can refer to, as we discussed on December 19th, these were the next steps we agreed on, and I'd love to set a meeting with you for X, and let's, talk about our progress. You will have to step outside your comfort zone, and this is another phrase you'll hear throughout everything, all of our work. We all have to do it every day. You must do it too. You've already done it. You're working hard. This is the week when, like me, you're trying to shop, cook, get everything ready for your family, and also do whatever you have to do at work, at church, your community works. We totally get it. We are living the same life you're living. So that means that you have to carve out some time that's just for you and for your leadership and success strategies. Even if it's just 1 hour early in the morning, which is when I try to think about mine, that's when you can, again, breathe, stay centered, strategize, and then I believe in writing something down. I'll share with you something that I do that helps me when things are crazy. I think of the 3 of us, Marsha is the most organized in terms of keeping for many, many years a personal leadership notebook. I'll be honest with you, I'm inconsistent. And because I found that I was inconsistent, although I have all these beautiful books, I don't always write in them. So I use something called dailydiary.com, which is an online service. It's free. You can sign up on it, www.dailydiary.com. You can write it in every day, once a month, once a year. You can program it to ask you questions. I write things down twice a day, and it helps me stay on course in terms of my own goals for myself. So whether, London Bridge is falling down, a train went off the tracks, someone in your family has been hospitalized, life is going to happen. It's going to come at you, and you will stop and you'll do whatever you need to do. But if you can keep track of those goals, if you wanted to meet with 3 new people, if you wanted to apply for a position at another company or organization, if you want to establish yourself as an entrepreneur and take the steps you need, if you want to take a course, develop a skill set, all of those things are valid and valued and will give you more skill sets to market and use for yourself and others. What you need to do is understand, like as Elaine said, you lead you. No one else does. So don't let distractions or difficult people, we know about envious peers. Maybe you've had to move, as I have, as all of us have, from being in the team to being the captain or boss of the team. It's a difficult transition to make, but not impossible. And you learn to stay centered and move forward. The last thing I'll say is confirm your next steps with people whom you trust. Sometimes they're mentors, sometimes they're sponsors, sometimes they're a merger of the two, sometimes they are family members, sometimes they're just friends, people outside who may not actually work where you work, but know you and know your value systems. And I can tell you that in a time like this, where almost every minute we're bombarded with information that can throw us off course, just breathe. I agree with Elaine and Marsha. Sometimes you need to step away from the madness. Don't be defeated by it. And use the values that you grew up with to keep you moving forward.
That was exactly, yes. So I can tell you, because people are text messaging me about what you all have said thus far, just how fabulous all 3 of you are, and I'm so happy that we can all use this reminder about how to stay the course. And I'm actually sitting here with my own copy of the workbook, and I'm glad you mentioned 25 in terms of the chapters, because there's also a quiz and some scenarios in here to really help you think about how you can manage actual things happening before they happen or after they've happened in a way that is in a book, as opposed to, how sometimes we process. It's a little bit different. It gives you a strategy to be able to work through things. And it really is such a helpful call to action, personal call to action, as we mentioned. So I have put the daily diary recommendation in the chat so that you all can see that. And I will remind everyone that if you have questions, that you should go to menti.com, menti.com, and use code 709494, and that's also in the chat, so please use that. And I know that you are, because I see questions and comments coming in. Ladies, you should know that there are people who are sitting with their copy of the book while they're going through the webinar, which is great. So we're all in that. And for those of you who don't have the book yet, and the original and the workbook, please, I'm telling you that it is going to be transformative to whatever trajectory you want to be on. So the next leadership principle is, even when things are crazy, you must still plan your work and work your plan, which leads to leadership principles number 10 and number 19. Always have a plan of action and follow through and step outside your comfort zone. And so, Marsha, talk to us about this.
Oh, yeah, you must have a plan. And I think it has to be an A and a B plan, and possibly a C plan. But having an A plan means that you have decided on some goals that you want for yourself. And I think you have to think in result. So many people come up with these goals that they're not thinking it through. They don't know the why of the goal. So I say, think of a goal, and I put goals, and you know this, Paula, I put goals in 4 categories. Immediate goals, short-term goals, long-term goals, and legacy goals. Where you're trying to go. And I love the fact that we're talking about not being distracted, because when you write these things down, they become like a roadmap. So having a plan of action and following through is so vitally important. And even if you decide to make a change, that's okay. They're your goals. But if you don't know where you're going, any place looks good. Once you make a decision to go forward, you won't be distracted by emotion. Instead, you'll think of strategy. And we talk about this sort of throughout the book, both books, but we talk about how do you see yourself? Where do you see yourself a year from now? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? What is it that you're trying to do? And people who know me know that I stayed at a job that for a long time was getting pretty distracting, working in the film industry, but staying there so that I could start my own business. And it's now been 12 years next year. I can't believe it. But getting what you need in order to do what you want to do is so vitally important. And you need a plan to do that. You need a plan. And you also need to be open to feedback. And we haven't talked about that a lot, but in the book we talk about it. Feedback is a gift. And you might not always like what you hear, but if you listen and take it to heart in a way, even sometimes from people who you don't like, they're usually telling you something, even when you don't want to hear it. Put it down, think about it, ask other people, and learn from all of those things. So that plan of action is so vitally important, and feedback and the people you have around you and the people you talk to will be able to help you get to that why, that legacy goal, all of the things that happen to you.
So we have a request for you to repeat the goal structure that you utilize again. I can do it, but I know that you will probably do it better, so go ahead.
Immediate goals. These are things you know you can do. You haven't done them yet. You've been too busy. 2017 went by too fast. What are some of those things that you got to get done? You just want to get them done. Immediate goals. Short-term goals. They take a little longer. They might require you doing something else, having some action steps that are going to lead to those short-term goals. Long-term goals. And long-term goals are really dependent on age and how close you are to the goal you're trying to get to. It may be, I want to go back to school because I need a degree. Might be a long-term goal for some people, and for other people, it's like, I'm almost there. I'll be finished my classes in 3 months, whatever it is. So you determine those long-term goals. And then legacy goals is, how do I want to be remembered? What do I want people to say about me? Legacy goals are tied to your brand. What's your personal brand? And you can't blame those on other people. It can't be my boss didn't let me. These legacy goals are yours, and you have to live them. You can't pay for them. You have to live them. So immediate, short-term, long-term, and legacy goals.
So just so all of you know, remember when I said that we were going to do goal setting webinar at the end of the month? So that's the framework we're using. so there you go. I learned. So this is fabulous. I'm just checking in with the questions really quickly. We have a bunch of them coming through. I'm going to remind everyone to use menti.com, MENTI, code 70, 94, and 94. And if you're waiting with questions that you haven't put in there yet, ask them now. We have another slide, and then we're just going to go to the Q&A after that. So go for it. So the next leadership principle that we are going to discuss is, as you chart your path forward, invite good people onto your success team and don't be afraid to ask for help. Leadership principles 17 and 18, seek guidance and support and surround yourself with the right people. You cannot live in isolation. You're going to be talking about that, Elaine.
Yes, wow, Marsha and Rhonda, thank you so much. It's just, even as I hear you speak, you're reminding me of all the great work that we've done and have experienced and have shared with other people. So it's amazing to go through this process and continuing with seek guidance and support. And if there's one thing maybe I could add to what you just said, Marsha, always have a plan of action and follow through, is sometimes our plan, and I'm sure you alluded to this, sometimes our plan will take a little bit of a detour. We might think that we're going off track, but actually it is just a sidetrack, or it is a detour to get us back on track. So sometimes we may think we're going off in a different direction, but actually it's just a step we must take in order to get back onto our strategy and back to our action plan. And these things in our action plan, sometimes they take time. They don't happen immediately. Sometimes it just takes, and it requires patience. So that's what I wanted to add, what you said, having experienced some of that recently myself. But seek guidance and support is very important as well, because we as Black women, and I know there might be some gentlemen on the phone, sometimes think we can do everything ourselves, or think that we're supposed to do everything ourselves. And oftentimes when we may need help, we don't necessarily ask for it. So this is another important chapter in our book. And seeking guidance, as Rhonda said earlier, Rhonda, Marsha, and I were peer mentors, and Marsha has been my coach as well, because I don't have all the answers. In fact, that's one of the reasons I know we wanted to write this book, is because we wanted to share some of our experience with other people and provide others with some of the answers that we didn't have, but we had to experience ourselves firsthand going through corporate America. So whether it's joining an organization, whether it's finding actually a mentor for ourselves, or creating a success team of people who care about us, and these people don't all have to be working in corporate America or for companies. The people are those, and it should be a diverse team, or people who we merely respect, and people who care about us, people who care about our well-being, people who care about our careers, and people who want to support us. Success teams are very important, and it could vary the number of people in your team. It doesn't have to be a team of 12. It could be 3 to 5 people. But there are people who can help us get from one phase of development to another. And of course, these people that you surround yourself with are the right people, because you can't live in isolation. And they're going back to, what I talked about originally, just staying positive. These people all should be positive, and all think you're fabulous, and all say you're fabulous, because you just want to be around positive people who can support you along your leadership journey, because no one can live in isolation. And we talk about a little bit in our book about the ostrich syndrome, where you might think all you need to do is your job, and that's all that's important. And if you do your job, you will be recognized, and that's not always the case. But seeking guidance and support is the only way we're going to move forward, and sometimes it does take a village. So Marsha and Rhonda, I'm sure you have something to add to that.
Hi, yes, this is Rhonda, and thank you so much, Elaine, for sharing these principles. And I will just suggest a few additions, and I know Marsha will have more. The first is that I now have reverse mentors. I have people who are much younger than I am who are on my success team. One of them is my stepson, Asa, who is my technical assistant. And so there are many things he understands about devices and social media uses that I simply don't. And they're just like water and air and light to him. So he has agreed to be on my success team. But I also want to share that I have people who've been on my success team since I began working almost 40 years ago. And they are not in my profession. I'm on my third career. But they are people who know and love me, as Elaine said. They also know me. They know how I operate. They know how I can procrastinate and get in my own way, and they can talk me up or talk me down, whatever's necessary. But I do also have older white men on my team, people who were very helpful to me when I launched my legal career. I didn't have anyone in my family, or didn't know that many people who looked like me all those years ago. I also have women, white women, Asian women, Black women. There are people from many different sectors, because I do a lot of non-for-profit work. So I consider myself rich in that I have an elaborate and diverse team of people that I consult around different matters. And I think you can use your success team in more than one way. Just like I think mentors grow with you, some you grow away from, some you become friends with, some you move on from. It's like friends and, other relationships in your life. So I do think you should be open to the evolution of your success team. And as Elaine pointed out, don't be afraid to seek out people who are doing things that you're interested in. And maybe it'll just be an informational interview. You may or may not continue with the relationship or invite them to be your advisors, but maybe you just want to know how they got to do what they're doing. There's no shame in that. And you should absolutely have the courage to reach out to them.
I actually come up with I'm sorry, Paula.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I actually come up with two thoughts, and as I was listening to Elaine and Rhonda speak, and the first one I would say is know the people that take your time right now. Who do you spend time with? And seriously, think, do they give you energy or do they drain your energy? And it's important to know that it may be, and I'm just going there, sometimes it's your family. So you have to know how much time you're really putting out there to those people who give you some energy and build you up versus who always are taking and pulling it down. And when you're finished talking to them, you want to just take a nap. You need to know that. That's first. The other thing, and Rhonda mentioned reverse mentoring, oftentimes you just feel like, you're there, you're at this level. I can't ask people who are younger than me, look different than me, whatever. And you need to know that you can ask, you have to ask for what you want to get what you need. And it's no shame in asking for help. You don't have to have every experience. You can learn from other people's experience. And then the third thing I'd have to say, and Paula, I'm going right to you for this, follow people who inspire you. It's okay that Paula is a coach like I'm a coach. If she's doing something that I want to know about, I'm going to follow her because I can. And even if she didn't want to tell me, when she puts it on LinkedIn, I could see it. So you need to, and then be able to tell people. And now is the perfect time to say, thank you, Paula. And I'll say thank you to other people. Now is the time to say thank you for inspiring me to do something else. We have to help each other win. And it's nothing wrong. Our friends and our sister friends and the people in our circle shouldn't be our competitors. They should be people that we're learning from. We should be sharing with each other. And it's important that we pay attention to that and we remember that, whether they're in your industry or in your company or in your area, your community. Say thank you. And say, I want to know how to do that too. Or teach me how to do that. Or just watch and learn from that. It's so vitally important. Surround yourself with people who give you energy and who you can learn from.
That is a wonderful, first of all, thank you for saying thank you. And I, obviously this is a love fest. I consider myself on all of your success team. So thank you. And I think that was a perfect hit for me to acknowledge again who our co-sponsor is for this webinar, which is the Association of Black Women Attorneys, and Tanya Blocker, who is our president. And if you are not a member of ABWA yet, you should become a member now. And Tanya's going to kill me because I never remember exactly how this goes. But essentially, the theme for this year for ABWA is my sister's keeper because I am my sister. I think I might have gotten it. Oh my goodness. But we need to love each other and support each other. And that's absolutely true. So that's a perfect call out to that. So now I have some questions that I will circulate to all of you. I'm going to just say them. So one question is, first off, I love the book. As a new professional attorney, how can I assess my value? Referring to chapter number 14.
Hi, this is Rhonda. Okay.
No.
Okay, I'm just going to say very quickly, as an attorney myself, and I was an older attorney when I launched my career. Often there is a little sense of insecurity as you're getting started. So I think the first thing is to be kind to yourself. You were smart enough to get into law school. You were smart enough to succeed there, to take the bar, to pass, and get launched. So stand on that success. You're already successful. And then do all of the things we've discussed here. Join ABWA. Join MBBA. Look for teachers and advisors at your workplace, in your bar associations. If you're a member of a not-for-profit, you'll find people there. You're going to be, if you're starting out, given some assignments. You're going to be working very hard during research, perhaps representing people. You're going to do very well, and occasionally, if you're normal, you'll make mistakes. So you do what we suggested, and you go ask for feedback. You consistently evaluate yourself and use the feedback you get from your guides, your managers, your boss, your peer mentors, and your success team to make yourself better.
Marsha, you want to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you already are supposed to be there. Understand that people already think highly of you, or you wouldn't be where you are now. Don't take that for granted. You're supposed to be there. Nobody gave that to you. You earned it. So understand, sit up a little higher, take a deep breath, and appreciate who you are. The other thing that I would say is getting feedback, and Rhonda mentioned it, is so vitally important. And I'll just share with you that I do a self-audit twice a year. But every other year, I actually send out to people, give me a couple of words that you would use to describe me. And I ask people in different parts of my life, because the words that they use to describe you sort of tell you what you show. Again, I'm mentioning that personal brand. So you want to know what they see that they may never say to you because they think that you know it already. But ask and then build on the things that you like. I start off with saying 3 to 5 words, and I write everything down, 3 to 5 words that I would use to describe myself. And then I want to see how many other people use those same words. They might use those same words. They might use other words. But see what's in common, and then build on the ones that you enjoy, the ones that you like, the ones that make you feel good, and you want to do more of it because you have to live it. And that determines your value.
So I'm in the middle of this process right now of doing a self-evaluation and utilizing crowdsourcing for that. It's a very vulnerable space to be, but you need that feedback, and so I encourage you all to engage in that. So another question here is, referring to Chapter 4, how do you create boundaries to avoid being the office mammy without destroying professional relationships?
Go ahead, Rhonda. I know you're going,
Rhonda.
Well, having been,
passion.
yes, it is. Having been an office mammy, and let me just say, I really don't mean that as such a horrible term. It's just that, so for historical reasons, as you all know, we are overprogrammed, I think, to be nurturing. And it's a wonderful thing to be nurturing. But if that's all you're known for is the person who brings in the macaroni and cheese or the cookies or the punch or the donuts or whatever it is, and if you're also known as the person who's willing to take time from your real job to give advice, as a sort of pseudo psychologist, and have people warming your couch, which is, it was amazing to me that people would be lined up on my couch. I'm like, but wait a minute, aren't they supposed to be doing a job? Don't I have a job to do? So I think we have to be mindful of what is our actual role in our workplace. What have we actually been hired to do? And it doesn't mean that you have to be cold or hard or mean or ugly or unsisterly, but it does mean that you have to guard your time carefully and learn how to say no. And I will just share one of my secrets because it took me some years to learn this. I had to start by saying, I'm so sorry, my schedule has changed and I won't be available to do whatever it is. And usually, it was some juicy gossip, or it was somebody, something happened at home bad, or it was talking about a difficult boss or whatever it was, but on my work time when I was supposed to be doing something else. So I've learned that boundaries are not walls. They are parameters that you need for your own life to keep you sane, to keep you from being distracted, to keep you focused and on course. And I agree with Marsha. Sometimes it's people who are very close to you, who, unfortunately, you know how you have to unfriend people on the Facebook or whatever it is. You need to do whatever you need to do to protect yourself. You can be a good person, still have your church values and your home values, and be a great lady without being a doormat and without being an office mammy where you are so busy nurturing that you don't get your work done and your managers see you as someone who cannot stay focused and stay on course. So don't do that.
And just to add what you said, Rhonda, I just like to add, I like what you said about your schedule changing, but also another option might be just to offer it as being someone else's turn to take on this chore. Oh, I've done this for a couple of weeks, or, maybe it's so-and-so's turn, and let's rotate, make it a team project so that, you're not really stuck with doing that particular job that has nothing to do with your job.
Okay, I have another question that's in here, and I think that because of time constraints, we're not going to get to all of them, but I'm going to try to convince these ladies to do this one more time. The question is, how do I get a white male mentor?
Well, Marsha, you may want to address this first.
Okay, because I have one, and I've had one for a long time. I've actually had a white male mentor and a white male sponsor, and my sponsor was my sponsor at my company, and I didn't know he was my sponsor until I was leaving. But all the time, he would ask me questions. He would, just check on me. And I just thought he just wanted to make sure I was doing what I was supposed to do. I then found out he's my sponsor. And again, I've been away from that job for 12 years, and I still meet with him once to twice a year. Okay? You have to establish a relationship. Mentors, and I think people are forgetting what mentors are really meant to do. If you have a good relationship with someone, then you start talking to them. You ask them things. You have to know what you can give back to them as well. I think when people come up to me and say, I want you to be my mentor, and I don't know who they are, I'm usually going to say no, by the way, because I have no problem just saying no, because I think that's a full sentence. But I think that if you establish relationships with people, they will want to help you, but you also have to help them. And so I say, think of who you'd like to be your mentor, and then think of what you can do for them that will make them recognize that you're a little different, that you're special. And it may be, and I say this to clients all the time, the person who you want to establish a relationship with, tell me 3 things that they like to do. And if you can't come up with what they like or what they need, then you haven't been listening, and you don't deserve to be mentored by them. Know what they
Tell
like.
these people, tell them.
Amen, sister.
Know what they like, know what they need. Go to their office. Do they have a dog, a cat, children? Do they mountain climb? Do they swim? Do they surf? What do they do, and how can you do it? If they like to cook, maybe you want to share a recipe. Doesn't have to be big. This is not big stuff. But you have to establish relationships. It's almost like dating. You're on your best behavior right now. Be on your best behavior for years, and you will have mentors. They come naturally. It's the relationship.
I'll try to squeeze in one last one. What tools do you use for accountability with your goals?
I didn't hear you. Something. I'm getting a feedback.
I'm getting a buzz too.
Buzz? Uh-oh. Is that better? Am I clear? Hello?
Okay.
Oh, better? Okay. What tools do you use for accountability with goals?
What can you use? What can you use for accountability?
Yeah, with goals. That's the question.
With goals. Well, I think Marsha's given us this great framework for goal setting, but with accountability, I mean, you are the one who's accountability. You are the one who's accountable for the goals that you set, and you are the one who must take responsibility, and that includes giving yourself permission to change them as we go along, and we've discussed that earlier, and we have some great help in our workbook about goal setting using a framework similar to Marsha's. It's not exactly like hers, but it talks you through whether you're entry level, middle level, or C-suite, or what we call senior executive, and we've broken down the workbook to give you some questions and exercises to assist you in both goal setting and evaluating your goal setting process going forward in the workbook.
Wonderful.
And I also think you can. I think this might be my phone. If you can hear me, can you hear me? Okay.
Marsha, I'm gonna stop all of you guys because we're at 2:00, and and so the time frame is over for the webinar. But I'm going to encourage everyone to engage with everyone on the call, because I'm going to circulate all their contact information as well as their bios and the recording of this webinar. But if you have questions that weren't answered, if you have thoughts that weren't answered, send them. You can still send them using the mentee.com and the code. And I'm hoping I can convince us to do a round number 2, maybe in the new year, to get some more folks engaged. But at a minimum, you too can learn these things and do these things by buying this workbook as well as the original book, and you can go do that at Amazon.com. I want to thank the Association of Black Women Attorneys for co-sponsoring with us today, and thank each of our speakers for their wonderful, wonderful advice. And I repeat again, go on and get you these books, because they will help. They will help. And we will be doing a program with these ladies in February. More information to come. Have a wonderful day, and see you all soon. Bye-bye.
Happy holidays.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you,
everyone. Thank you.
Happy holiday.